My name is Sarah, and I'm 34 years old. If someone had told me last Christmas that I'd be standing here today, completely transformed and finally free, I would have laughed through my tears. But here's the thing about rock bottom. Sometimes, you need to hit it before you can build something beautiful. Christmas morning 2023 started like any other holiday in the Morrison household. I was up at 5 a.m., preparing a feast for 16 people. My hands were already cramping from peeling potatoes when my mother-in-law, Linda, walked into my kitchen without knocking. She never knocked. In her mind, this was still her son's house, not ours. "The gravy smells burnt," she announced, not even a good morning. Her perfectly styled silver hair gleamed under my kitchen lights. Her red lipstick was already applied at 6 a.m. I had been married to her son David for 12 years. 12 years of walking on eggshells. 12 years of swallowing my words to keep the peace. But something was different that morning. Maybe it was the exhaustion from hosting every single holiday. Maybe it was watching my 8-year-old daughter Emma shrink whenever Grandma Linda entered the room. "Good morning to you too, Linda," I said quietly, stirring the gravy that definitely wasn't burnt. She stepped closer. Her expensive perfume mixed with something else, something I couldn't quite place. "Don't take that tone with me, Sarah. I raised 5 children. I know burnt gravy when I smell it." My husband David appeared in the doorway, already dressed in his Christmas sweater. He looked between us with that familiar deer in headlights expression. "Mom, Sarah's been cooking since dawn," he said weakly. Linda's laugh was sharp as broken glass. "Of course you'd defend her, you always do, even when she serves your family subpar food." That's when something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a quiet, clean break. "Linda," I said, setting down my wooden spoon. "This is my kitchen, in my house. If you don't like my cooking, there's a McDonald's down the street." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. David's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Linda's face transformed. Her polite mask slipped completely. "How dare you speak to me that way? I am your elder. I am your children's grandmother." "You're also a guest in my home," I replied. My voice was steady, but my heart was racing. That's when she did it. Linda Morrison, pillar of our community, deacon's wife at First Baptist Church, spat directly in my face. The warm saliva hit my cheek and dripped down. Time stopped. My daughter Emma stood in the hallway, witnessing everything. Her little face crumpled with confusion and shame. David just stood there. Frozen. Silent. But I wasn't frozen anymore. For the first time in 12 years, I was completely, crystal clear awake. If you are watching this right now, drop a comment letting me know where you are viewing from. Before I tell you about this life-changing decision, hit like and subscribe to hear more real stories about family loyalty and betrayal that might just change how you see your own relationships. I wiped Linda's spit from my face with a dish towel. I looked at my husband, hoping for some spark of the man I'd fallen in love with, some sign that he'd defend his wife and daughter. Nothing. "Get out," I whispered. "What?" Linda's voice cracked, with disbelief. "I said get out of my house, now." "You can't throw me out. This is my son's home, too." I turned to David. "Tell your mother to leave, right now." He shuffled his feet. "Sarah, it's Christmas. Maybe we can all just calm down." And no. The word came out stronger than I expected. No more calming down, no more keeping the peace. She spat in my face in front of our daughter. Either she leaves, or Emma and I do. David's face went pale. "Sarah, please, don't make me choose." But he already had chosen. He'd been choosing for 12 years. I looked at Emma, still standing in the hallway. Her Christmas pajamas suddenly seemed too small, too innocent for what she'd just witnessed. "Baby, go pack a bag. We're going to Aunt Katie's." Linda's laugh was hysterical now. "You're leaving? On Christmas? Over a little argument?" I faced her fully. This woman who'd made my life miserable for over a decade, who'd questioned every parenting decision, criticized every meal, undermined every boundary. "This isn't about Christmas, Linda. This is about respect. Something you've never shown me." What I didn't know then was that Linda had her own secrets. Dark ones that would soon come crashing down around her perfect facade. But first, I had a choice to make that would change everything. To understand how I got to that breaking point, you need to know the Morrison family. They're what you'd call old money in our small town of Cedar Falls. David's father, Robert, owned the largest construction company in 3 counties. The Morrison name was on half the buildings downtown. Their family portrait hung in the church lobby. Linda served on every important committee, from the school board to the hospital charity auction. I grew up on the other side of town. My dad worked construction, ironically for Robert Morrison. My mom cleaned houses to make ends meet. When David and I started dating in college, I thought I was living a fairy tale. David was everything I'd dreamed of. Tall, kind, with gentle eyes that made me feel seen. He studied business, planning to join the family company. I was majoring in elementary education, wanting to teach children. Our first 2 years together were magical. He'd drive 4 hours every weekend just to see me. He met my parents and never once made them feel small, even though our apartment was smaller than his dorm room. But things changed when I met his family. Linda Morrison was stunning. Even in her 50s, she commanded every room she entered. Perfect posture, perfect clothes, perfect smile. She spoke in measured tones about appropriate topics: weather, church events, community service. She never asked about my family, never asked about my dreams. She looked through me like I was temporary. Robert was different, quieter. He'd nod politely and retreat to his study. I later learned he'd built the business from nothing, just like my dad worked for him. But money changes people. Success can create walls. David's siblings were a mixed bunch. His older brother Marcus lived in Atlanta, visiting only for major holidays. He'd married a lawyer and seemed relieved to be distant from family drama. His younger sister Jessica was 25 and perpetually single. She lived in the family's guest house and worked part-time at an art gallery. Jessica was kind to me, but careful. She'd learned not to cross her mother. The twins, Michael and Matthew, were still in high school when I joined the family. They were Linda's babies, her golden children who could do no wrong. Both played football. Both planned to attend the University of Alabama, just like their father and David. Family dinners at the Morrison house were performances. Everyone dressed appropriately. Conversations followed unspoken scripts. Linda orchestrated every detail, from the china pattern to the seating arrangements. I always sat at David's right side, never at the head or foot of the table. Those positions belonged to Robert and Linda. Even married, I remained a guest in their world. The first crack in my fairy tale appeared 6 months after our wedding. David and I had found a small house across town. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. I was excited to host our first Thanksgiving. Linda called the Tuesday before to inform me she'd already planned the menu. She was bringing the turkey, the sides, even the dessert. My only job was to provide the location. "But I already bought groceries," I told David that evening. He was reading work emails on his laptop. "Mom's just trying to help. She's a great cook." "I'm a great cook, too. It's our first holiday in our own home." David looked up then. really looked at me. Sarah, please don't make this complicated. Family harmony is important to Mom. Family harmony. Those two words became the chain that bound me for the next 11 years. Every birthday party, every holiday, every milestone was orchestrated by Linda. I became a supporting actor in my own life story. When Emma was born, Linda was in the delivery room without being invited. She held my daughter before I did, cooing about how the baby had the Morrison nose and eyes. When Emma turned 3 and I planned a small party at our house, Linda arrived with a bouncy house and a clown. My carefully planned afternoon was overshadowed by her grand gestures. Have you ever felt invisible in your own life? Like you're watching someone else make all the important decisions while you smile and nod? That was my reality for over a decade. I taught 2nd grade and loved my students. I raised Emma and treasured our quiet moments together. But in the Morrison family, I remained an outsider looking in. David worked longer hours as he climbed the company ladder. He came home exhausted, wanting peace. Whenever I tried to discuss my feelings about his mother, he'd sigh and say we'd talk later. Later never came. Emma started kindergarten and began asking why Grandma Linda was always angry with Mommy. Children see everything, even what we try to hide. That's when I realized I had to change something. I just didn't know it would take a Christmas morning catastrophe to give me the courage. The months leading up to that Christmas morning were filled with small rebellions that Linda noticed immediately. I started saying no to her suggestions. I planned Emma's 7th birthday party without consulting her. I enrolled Emma in dance classes Linda deemed unnecessary. Each act of independence was met with passive-aggressive punishment. Linda would arrive at family dinners with subtle digs. Oh, Emma looks thin. Are you feeding her enough? Or, David seems stressed. Marriage can be challenging when couples aren't compatible. But there was something else happening that I didn't fully understand yet. Linda's behavior was becoming more erratic. She'd always been controlling, but now she seemed desperate. My sister-in-law Jessica was the first to mention it. We were having coffee while Emma played at the park. Jessica kept looking over her shoulder like she was afraid of being overheard. Mom's been acting strange lately, she said quietly. More anxious than usual. She's been taking these phone calls and stepping outside. I remembered the scent from Christmas morning. Not just perfume, something masculine. Cologne. Maybe she's planning something for your dad's birthday, I suggested, though Robert's birthday wasn't until March. Jessica shook her head. That's not it. She's been dressing differently too. Younger clothes. She bought a new car last month without telling Dad. A red convertible. I'd seen Linda driving it around town, her silver hair flowing behind her like she was 25. Again. And there's something else, Jessica whispered. I saw her at the Marriott downtown last Tuesday. She was having lunch with someone, but she was sitting with her back to the window, like she was hiding. My mind started connecting dots. I didn't want to see the new clothes, the mysterious phone calls. The way Linda had been more critical of everyone lately, like she was projecting her own guilt. Jessica, are you saying what I think you're saying? She looked miserable. I don't know what I'm saying, but Mom's been acting like a teenager, with a secret, and Dad's completely oblivious. Robert Morrison was a good man who worked 12-hour days and trusted his wife completely. He'd built their life around providing for Linda's every want. The idea that she might betray that trust would destroy him. Meanwhile, my own marriage was cracking under the pressure of my newfound voice. David couldn't understand why I'd suddenly stopped accommodating his mother's every demand. She's just particular, he'd say after another tense family dinner. She means well. She told Emma that her dance recital costume was inappropriate, I reminded him. Emma's 7 years old. David. The costume was a butterfly outfit. David loosened his tie, looking exhausted. Maybe the straps were a little thin. That conversation happened 3 weeks before Christmas. I realized then that David would never see his mother clearly. He'd been trained from birth to excuse her behavior, to prioritize her feelings over everyone else's. I started documenting things, not intentionally at first, but I began writing in a journal my therapist had suggested. Little incidents that seemed insignificant alone, but formed a pattern together. Linda criticizing the way I folded David's shirts when she visited unannounced. Linda telling Emma that public school was inferior to private education, making my daughter ashamed of her school. Linda rearranging my kitchen cabinets during family gatherings and claiming she was helping. The journal filled up quickly. 12 years of small humiliations and boundary violations I'd tolerated for the sake of family peace. But the most revealing entries came from observing Linda herself. The way she'd check her phone constantly during family dinners. The way she'd disappear for hours on Saturday afternoons, claiming she was shopping but returning with nothing. The way she'd started criticizing Robert openly, something she'd never done before. Your father works too much. He's let himself go. He doesn't appreciate what he has. I was beginning to understand that Linda's increased hostility toward me wasn't just about control, it was about guilt. She was lashing out because she was living a lie, and seeing my growing authenticity made her uncomfortable. The Sunday before Christmas, I saw them together. Linda and Pastor Williams from First Baptist Church, where Linda taught Sunday school and organized the women's ministry. They were at the coffee shop downtown, sitting close together, her hand covering his across the small table. The intimacy between them was unmistakable. Pastor Williams was 58, married to sweet Margaret Williams, who played piano for the church choir. They had 3 grown children and 2 grandchildren. He was also the man Linda had been having an affair with for months. Standing there watching them, I realized I held the power to destroy Linda Morrison's perfect facade. The question was, what was I going to do with it? After Linda spat in my face that Christmas morning, Emma and I went to my sister Katie's house. Katie lived 20 minutes away and had always been my safe harbor. She took one look at my face and wrapped me in her arms. "What happened?" she asked, leading me to her kitchen while Emma went to play with her cousins. I told her everything. The spit, David's silence, the years of disrespect. But I also told her about what I'd seen at the coffee shop. Katie's eyes widened. "Pastor Williams? Are you absolutely certain?" "I saw them, Katie. The way they looked at each other. It wasn't platonic." My sister poured us both coffee with shaking hands. "Sarah, this changes everything. If Linda's having an affair, especially with the pastor, this could destroy multiple families." I spent Christmas Day at Katie's, fielding texts from David. He wanted me to come home. He wanted to talk. He promised his mother would apologize. But Linda never texted, never called. Even facing the dissolution of her son's marriage, she couldn't bring herself to admit wrongdoing. That evening, I made a decision that would change everything. "I'm going to the New Year's Eve service," I told Katie. "Why?" "Because First Baptist always has their annual testimonial service. People stand up and share their stories, their struggles, their faith journeys." Katie understood immediately. "Sarah, you can't. Think about Margaret Williams. Think about their children. I've been thinking about them. They deserve to know the truth. But the fallout. Is Linda's responsibility, not mine. She made these choices." I spent the next week gathering evidence. I wasn't proud of it, but I felt like a detective uncovering a crime. I followed Linda twice more and saw them together both times. I also discovered that Linda had been using church credit cards for their hotel meetings. She was on the finance committee and had access to the accounts. The affair wasn't just about betraying her marriage. She was stealing from the church. David finally came to see me on December 30th. He looked haggard, like he hadn't slept in days. "Mom says she's sorry," he began. "Did she say it to you or to me?" "To me. But she means it." I looked at this man I'd loved for 14 years. "David, your mother spat in my face in front of our daughter, and you did nothing." I was shocked. I didn't know what to do. "You knew exactly what to do. You just chose not to do it." David sat heavily in Katie's kitchen chair. "Come home, Sarah. We can work this out." "Can we?" "Because from where I sit, you've chosen your mother over your wife and daughter every single time, for 12 years. That's not fair, isn't it? Name one time you've stood up for me when your mother crossed a line." The silence stretched between us. David couldn't name a single instance because there weren't any. "I'm going to the service tomorrow night," I told him. "What service?" "The New Year's Eve testimonial at First Baptist." Something in my tone must have warned him. David's face went pale. "Sarah, what are you planning?" "I'm planning to tell my story, about finding my voice, about learning to stand up for myself and my daughter." "You can't. My parents will be there. The whole congregation will hear the truth." David grabbed my hands across the table. "Please don't do this. Whatever you're thinking, please, let's talk first." But I was done talking. I'd spent 12 years talking, explaining, hoping David would finally hear me. He never did. New Year's Eve arrived cold and clear. I put on my best dress, the navy blue one Linda had once criticized as too tight for church. I did my hair and makeup carefully. I wanted to look strong, dignified. Emma stayed with Katie. This wasn't something a 7-year-old needed to witness. First Baptist Church was packed. Nearly 400 people filled the pews. The Morrison family sat in their usual spot, 3rd row from the front. Linda wore a burgundy suit and pearls. She looked untouchable. Perfect as always. Pastor Williams stood at the podium, leading the service with his usual charisma. His wife Margaret sat in the front row, smiling up at him with pure adoration. When the testimonial portion began, several people shared their stories. Recovery from addiction, financial struggles overcome, family reconciliations. Then I stood up. "I have something to share," I said, my voice carrying across the silent sanctuary. Linda's head snapped around. Our eyes met across the crowded church. She knew. "My name is Sarah Morrison," I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "And I want to talk about finding your voice when you've been silenced." The congregation was completely silent. Linda's face had gone white as her pearls. "For 12 years, I've been told that keeping peace was more important than speaking truth. That harmony mattered more than honesty." I could see David in my peripheral vision, his hands gripping the pew in front of him. "But I've learned something important. Peace built on lies isn't really peace at all. It's just fear wearing a pretty mask." Pastor Williams was still standing at the podium, but his confident smile had faltered. "Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is tell the truth, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts." I took a deep breath and looked directly at Linda. "I've discovered that someone in our congregation, someone we trust and look up to, has been living a double life, stealing from the church, breaking sacred vows, lying to everyone who cares about them." The sanctuary was so quiet I could hear the heating system humming. "Linda Morrison and Pastor Williams have been having an affair for months. They've used church funds to pay for hotel rooms. They've betrayed their spouses, their families, and all of you. The explosion of sound was immediate. Gasps, murmurs, someone crying. Margaret Williams let out a sound like a wounded animal. Linda stood up abruptly. "How dare you?" she screamed across the church. "How dare you spread lies about me?" But Pastor Williams's face told a different story. He looked like a man whose world had just collapsed. "It's not a lie," I said clearly, "and everyone in this room deserves to know the truth." What happened next was chaos. Margaret Williams collapsed into the arms of her daughter. Robert Morrison stared at his wife like he'd never seen her before. The congregation erupted in shocked conversations. David got up and left without looking at me. Linda stormed out, her high heels clicking angrily on the marble floor. I sat back down, my hands shaking but my conscience clear. The service ended abruptly. People didn't know what to do, what to say. Some glared at me like I was the villain. Others approached to quietly thank me. Mrs. Peterson, an elderly widow who'd been widowed by her husband's affair 40 years earlier, squeezed my hand. "You did the right thing, dear," she whispered. "The truth always comes out eventually. Better now than later." That was January 1st, 2024. By January 3rd, Pastor Williams had resigned in disgrace. By January 10th, Linda had moved out of the family home. By February, David and I were separated. The divorce was finalized in June. I kept the house, got full custody of Emma, and received a settlement that would let me start over. But the real transformation took much longer. Have you ever torn down everything you thought you knew about yourself and had to rebuild from scratch? It's terrifying and liberating at the same time. I started therapy, real therapy, not just the casual counseling I'd tried before. Dr. Martinez helped me understand how I'd lost myself in the Morrison family system, how I'd confused keeping peace with being loving. Emma started therapy too. She'd witnessed too. Much absorbed too many mixed messages about what family should look like. Slowly, we began to heal. I took a year off from teaching and focused on being present with Emma. We took weekend trips, just the two of us. We talked about everything. I answered her questions about the divorce honestly but age-appropriately. "Why did you tell everyone about Grandma Linda at church?" she asked one Saturday morning over pancakes. "Because secrets that hurt people aren't meant to be kept," I told her. "And I wanted to teach you that your voice matters, that you don't have to stay quiet when someone treats you badly." Emma nodded solemnly. She'd inherited my intuition and had never been comfortable around Linda anyway. "I'm proud of you, Mommy," she said. "You were brave." That conversation happened 9 months after the church confrontation. It was the first time I felt truly proud of my choice instead of just relieved. David and I attempted co-parenting, but it was strained. He blamed me for destroying his family. I blamed him for never protecting ours. His relationship with Linda remained complicated. She'd moved to Florida to live with her sister, unable to face the shame in our small town. Robert filed for divorce and sold the construction company. The affair had rippled through multiple families, just as Katie had predicted. But sometimes telling the truth is worth the cost. 1 year later, I'm sitting in my kitchen writing this story. The same kitchen where Linda spat in my face. But everything else has changed. The walls are painted yellow now, instead of the beige Linda always said was more sophisticated. Emma's artwork covers the refrigerator. Fresh flowers sit on the hot counter because I like them, not because they match the decor. This house feels like home for the first time in 12 years. Emma is thriving. She's 8 now, confident and outspoken in the best ways. She stands up to bullies at school. She speaks her mind at home. She's learning early what it took me 34 years to figure out. Your voice matters. Last month, she had a disagreement with her soccer coach about playing time. Instead of complaining to me, she approached the coach directly and asked what she needed to improve. That's the daughter I'm raising now. Strong, direct, unafraid of difficult conversations. David and I have found our rhythm as divorced co-parents. It took months of family therapy, but we're finally putting Emma's needs first. He's dating someone new, a teacher named Rebecca who seems kind. I hope she makes him happy. More importantly, I hope she challenges him to grow. I've been dating too. Nothing serious yet, but I'm learning what it feels like to be with someone who sees me as an equal. Someone who asks for my opinion and actually listens to the answer. The church scandal eventually died down, as small-town scandals do. Pastor Williams moved away after his divorce. A new pastor was hired, a young woman who's bringing fresh energy to the congregation. I still attend sometimes, though I sit in the back now. Some people still whisper when they see me. Others nod respectfully. I've made peace with both reactions. Linda sends Emma birthday cards from Florida but hasn't asked to visit. I think she knows her granddaughter is better off without her toxic influence. Sometimes the most loving thing a grandparent can do is step back. Robert remarried last fall to a lovely widow named Helen who treats him with genuine kindness. He and Emma have a good relationship now, built on honesty instead of obligation. But the biggest change is in me. I started teaching again this fall, and I'm a different educator than I was before. I notice the quiet students now, the ones who've learned to make themselves small. I encourage them to speak up, to ask questions, to take up space. One of my second graders, Maria, reminds me of myself at that age, eager to please, afraid to cause trouble. Last week, another student took her art supplies without asking. Old Sarah would have quietly given Maria new supplies to avoid confrontation. New Sarah knelt down next to Maria and said, "What do you want to do about this?" Maria thought for a moment, then walked over to the other student. "Excuse me, those are my markers. I need them back, please." The other student returned them immediately and apologized. Maria beamed with pride. She'd found her voice. That's my mission now. Helping others find their voices before it takes 34 years and a Christmas morning catastrophe. If you're watching this and recognize yourself in my story, I want you to know something. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to be respected. You deserve relationships built on equality, not control. It's never too late to change your story. The path isn't easy. People will be angry when you stop accommodating their bad behavior. They'll accuse you of causing drama when you're simply refusing to accept disrespect. Let them be angry. Their discomfort with your growth says nothing about you and everything about them. Some relationships won't survive your transformation. That's okay too. Relationships that require you to dim your light aren't worth keeping. But the relationships that do survive will be stronger, more authentic, built on truth instead of avoidance. Emma and I are proof of that. Are you ready to find your voice? Are you tired of keeping peace at the expense of your own dignity? Share your story in the comments below. Tell me about a time you finally stood up for yourself. Or tell me about a situation where you're still struggling to speak up. This community is here to support each other. We're here to remind each other that our voices matter. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more real stories about family, courage, and transformation. Your story matters too. I can't wait to hear it. Remember, you are worthy of respect. You are worthy of love. And you are worthy of being heard. Thank you for listening to mine.